Hey, Raj Martin here from Billings, Montana. I want to encourage you to take a look at minds.com, minds.com, and it's Ethereum based, and it's a value based program based on Ethereum blockchain, and it's a way to communicate and do other things, and it's going to go up in value because it is based on Ethereum. And I'll give you my referral link on that. It's important that we understand what's going on here. We're getting into a money transition program with Trump, and we should be fully into it, I'm guessing, by the end of his second term. We'll see.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Michael Trim Show. I'm your host, Michael Trim. Today is Saturday, January 5th, 2018, and we are still in a government shutdown. And what I want to do is discuss with you some of the climate that we see currently, not only within the government, within the deep state, but also within some of the other areas around us. First and foremost, I want to just ask everyone to please subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up button, follow me on Twitter and minds.com. If you don't know what minds.com is, it's minds.com. Check that out. It's a new blockchain technology for video content and blogs and text and messaging, etc., based on Ethereum, which has monetary value that will go up and will expand because the technology is great versus a lot of these other third-party coins like Steemit, which are based on Ethereum, but they are valueless. However, the part that I want to really talk to you today about is about two new bills that have been introduced into the Congress, and they're in the House of Representatives for the 116th Congress, and the first one is H.R. 24, and it says to require a full audit of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System and the Federal Reserve Banks by the Comptroller General of the United States and for other purposes. Audit the Fed. Who's ready to audit the Fed? I've been ready for a long time. I think that that's something that a lot of people who are libertarian and independent and a little bit on the conservative side and even some liberal side, like hard leftist liberals, want to see an audit of the Fed. Because we need to understand that not only does the Fed have unconstitutional power over the people, it is also a vehicle used to create massive levels of income and wealth inequality, as well as this dangerous, uncontrollable deep state, because where our money comes from is a private board of governors, as the bill says, and that board of governors are responsible for disseminating choices ascending through our society. And these choices are all about the protection of the dollar. They all have the strength of the military behind them. They all have the power of the corruption within government as a means to get the agenda done that it sees fit.
Okay, so basically the Federal Reserve is illegal and unconstitutional and needs to be abolished, and Trump is currently working on it. We're going to talk about more of that in a moment. But what you need to understand is that Trump is already working on that, and we're going to bring more of this information in. This H.R. 24 and H.R. 25 is very important, and we need to push to Congress and our congressmen and other Congress people to push this through and get going on it. We've got some more on this in just a moment.
The Federal Reserve is the reason why Kennedy was assassinated, that he wanted to end the Fed. Well, that very well might be the possibility. And we can also look at the threats against Donald Trump and the alleged assassination attempts that people have put together. We need to look at this very seriously because the reality is Kennedy did not have the military protecting him, but Trump does. It's a big difference. It's a very, very big difference because what is most important to recognize here is the old guard that QAnon talks about are the people like Jeb Bush, the people like Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, all of these gatekeepers and all of these people who have gotten away with so many bad things in their life. They've done some good things in what people might arguably say, but they've gotten away with a lot of bad things when they shouldn't have. Because if we really had equal justice for all, then a lot of these classified programs that existed would have been stopped and prosecuted because they were illegal in the first place. But because they were classified and they could get away with it, they decided to get away with it and not internally clean up inside.
Okay, that's another problem. We're going to get onto this other stuff in just a moment. And again, Congress and the Senate have to learn to do their jobs, and they need cleaned up, and they're going to be cleaned up over time if Trump has his way. Anyhow, this pedophile in high places and the pornography with it and the Pizzagate involved with it is very serious for many, many different angles.
Understand a paradigm that QAnon has told us, whether it's misinformation or disinformation, I am unclear, because to date, no evidence has dropped that concretely says that they are pedophiles. All that we know in terms of circumstantial evidence that has been provided to us is that the FBI claimed that 334,000 emails on Hillary Clinton's archive of emails stored in Anthony Weiner's laptop were evidence of child pornography production between Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin. This communication is a bombshell because it coincides with the Inspector General's report on page 294 that said that there were crimes against children. Hillary Clinton and Foundation crimes against children.
Okay, so if these are actual documents and this stuff is factual, they've committed crimes against children with their foundation. All right, this stuff with HR 25 is coming up now. We need to pay attention to this.
And so it brings me to the second bill that I want to talk to you about, and that is HR 25. HR 25 is to promote freedom, fairness, and economic opportunity by repealing the income tax and other taxes, abolishing the Internal Revenue Service, and enacting a national sales tax to be administered primarily by the states. Wow. That was Bob Woodwall that introduced this through the Ways and Means Committee of the House of Representatives. And this bill has mostly Republicans who are supporting it. I don't think there's any Democrats that are going to come on and supporting it. But you can go on congress.gov and just search for HR 25 and 116. Okay, that'll give you the 116th Congress and HR 25. And then you can read who the sponsors are and see if they're from your state. But what's fascinating here is I've heard some people on the boards, on the 8chan boards, who have been alluding to the idea that possibly a VAT tax like tax will be introduced instead of the Internal Revenue Service. Instead of taxing our income before we even get our money, because think about this for a second. We pay sales tax right now. Some people pay no sales tax if you're in several states. Some people pay like 14% sales tax. It's crazy the amount of sales tax that you pay on the goods that you buy, like diapers and laundry and stuff, laundry cleaning stuff. You know, it's crazy how much taxes you pay every single year in the form of sales tax, but compound that level of tax with what you pay in your income tax, it's theft beyond theft. I think that the amount of redistribution of wealth that the Internal Revenue Service has been involved in and what our federal taxes have actually done are so immoral and wrong. Because if you are somebody who makes...
I'm going to stop him here. Most people don't know this, but before, I think it's 1911, 1912, 1913, early 1900s, before that time there was no federal income tax. I shouldn't say no. We had a period after the Civil War was paid off. It took about 30 years, talking 1860s to 1890s. It took about 30 years to pay off, 30-some years to pay off the Civil War. There was a tax. So before the 20th century, there was no federal tax. Clear up to, 1912 or 1913, there was no sales tax. There was no federal tax. We ran the federal government without it. But it took us 30-some years to pay off the debt we incurred in the Civil War. And then there was 10, 12, 13 years that we didn't have a federal tax, and then all of a sudden we had one. So we survived 13 years without a federal tax after we got the debt paid off in the Civil War, and then all of a sudden we got a federal tax in the early 1900s. You can go back and check the exact dates on this, but it's roughly correct. So that meant we had over a decade with no federal tax, and all of a sudden after we get the Federal Reserve in, we get a federal tax started too. Both totally unconstitutional and corrupt, but it was done. Anyhow, take and check out HR 24 and HR 25 because both will help us get rid of the IRS and the Federal Reserve. Very, very important.